everyone, welcome to episode 32 of the Fashion Feed podcast. This week, I was going to say this episode, but we're doing them weekly now, is about building unshakable confidence with Kyra Matthews. Kyra is a creative mindset and money coach, podcaster and speaker. And after working as a freelance stylist for Dazed, Paul Smith, ASOS and E-Magazine, don't mind her, she specialises in helping fashion stylists crippled with self-doubt and fear grow their businesses and connect with clients that excite them. Her community goes nuts for her high vibe, albeit slightly woo-woo energy, and her commitment to empowering creatives. She guides them on how to get the income and pay they deserve by creating an unstoppable mindset. When she's not coaching people on their money drama, she's chatting to creative entrepreneurs on her own podcast, Bold, Brilliant and Broke. I'm going to be a guest on that very soon, so keep an eye out. In this episode, we discuss why Kyra transitioned from styling to coaching. Being creative and making money are not mutually exclusive. Common themes Kyra deals with when working with clients. Her tips on manifestation and how to use journaling as a free method of self-reflection.
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. We've literally just recorded your podcast as well, and so now we're doing this one. So I always feel like I'm repeating myself, and then I forget that nobody's heard both back to back. So
I think I'm going to do a lot of that as well. Like, we spent a lot of time together today. Like,
why not? We've got nothing else to do during isolation.
I know.
So tell everybody who you are, what you do.
Sure. So I am a stylist assistant turned creative coach. So I have worked in the fashion industry for 5 years in various different roles and positions, but mainly in styling. And I've worked with brands such as Dazed, Paul Smith, ASOS, and ES Magazine, and I really love my time there. But what I am transitioning into at the moment is working with creatives. I basically empower creative entrepreneurs to develop the skills, the emotional skills to reach their peak potential. And we do that through reprogramming our mind, habits and beliefs, and therefore up-leveling our lives and our businesses.
Love that. And so if we go back to the styling days, how did you get into that? Like, when did you first know that you wanted to get into the fashion industry, and how did you do it?
So kind of similar to your story, I have always known that I wanted to work in fashion. Actually, that's a lie. I started life wanting to be a writer, then I wanted to be a doctor, and then by the time I was about 13, I was like, no, fashion is for me. I used to sit on my old Windows computer and look at Alexander McQueen shows when we still had a thing called style.com
Yeah,
and watch his shows and literally be like, wow, he's amazing, he's a genius. So I always knew that fashion was for me. I have a younger sister, and I used to make clothes on her, like really badly sewn by hand, and just like get her to walk and up and down the house in the dresses that I would make her. So fashion was always a part of me. I had a mum who was really like, yeah, like if you want that, go get it. I went to a school that really supported me in my arts and creativity. I was also quite academic, so I guess there was a sense my teachers were just like, you know, if worse comes to worse, at least she'd done really well in her history exam and stuff like that. So I got permission from a young age to really go for it. Growing up, my mum loved Tony Robbins, like she became a life coach. There was this sense that anything is possible growing up. So yeah, I went to the Fashion Retail Academy and I did fashion design there. Then I did my degree at UCA and I was introduced to this amazing plethora of people, of different talents, photographers. And yeah, I just kind of fell into the styling from there. Like with styling, people ask me how I got into this, and I wish I had a better explanation, because what actually happened was I had a friend who was a year above me. She was on fashion promotion and I was on fashion design, and she just said, hey, like, I'm doing a photo shoot and I need some help. Like, do you mind coming on set? And I was like, yeah, sure. And she didn't even pay me for the first few times. Like, I didn't even know that being an assistant was a role that I could do. And then she was like, oh, like, go speak to this person, they can pay you for what you do. And then that's how I started as a stylist assistant, and I just snowballed from there.
Yeah. So when you're working as a stylist, like it's long days, right? Like, have you got any stories that you want to share, or like what was the best day on the job or the worst day on the job? Like, what kind of things did you end up having to do?
I think I have a couple of stories, but like they involve names. I'm thinking there was
Off
I
record.
yeah.
We'll
I
save it for
remember
another day.
turning up to a set, like this was really early in my career. I remember turning up to set and being like, someone being like, oh, this photographer, he is known for shooting into the night. Like, just like, if you have any plans, just forget it. And I just remember being like, oh my God, I have a Tinder date after this. Like, what the hell? But some of my worst moments have been some of like the best experiences. So I remember like really early on, I didn't have a lot of confidence. I was working with this stylist and she was like, hey, like, so can you come and prep this job for me? Like, can you come and work? I just need a bit of like extra help on this. And I was like, sure, sure. And we were meant to be doing this like together. But in fact, like I had confirmed the job and she had just gone on holiday and I was just left to do all of this and to work with a client. And I was so new to this client and I just felt like, oh my God, like this sinking doom. But somehow I was just like, no, there's a reason why she's given me this and I'm just gonna do it and go for it. And I think the best time that I've worked has really been, I guess it's a period. So within the last year, like when I really built those relationships with my clients and the brands that I work with, knowing that we have a relationship where we've been booking each other and working with each other for like a few years, that gives me a lot of satisfaction to know that they trust me and that I can deliver.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so what happened in your styling career to make you pivot? Or was it just the fact that you knew from like your mum's experience that you always were going to end up in that role anyway?
You know, I loved Tony Robbins, but I remember when I went to his first seminar. So if anyone doesn't know who he is, he's like, he done for like personal development and self-coaching what Karl Lagerfeld has done for fashion. Like that's
Yeah.
how people see him. Like he's this mental guru. And I remember thinking he was so cringy. I was like, I went to this event and people were like screaming and being positive and being happy. And I was just like, that is so uncool. Like I thought my mum was so uncool. Like I was just like, that is not me. But the reason why I pivoted was because I was working in industry and I saw all of my friends like trying to do these amazing things, like trying to create films, trying to write scripts, trying to launch brands. And I would see them talk themselves out of the things they wanted. Things would happen to them and they would internalize it as there was something wrong with them. So they would apply for a job and get a no, but not once, not five, not 10 times. They would work with someone and have a really bad experience. And they would take what is happening to them and be like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe, I really want this thing, but maybe it's just not in my destiny. Maybe it's just not in my future. And they would resign themselves to jobs that bored them, jobs that were really unfulfilling. They would just live for the weekend. And I really felt sad when I saw my friends do that. And I felt like I had really an obligation and a duty to help them see the magic that is them and help them see that even though these things are happening, it is nothing to do with your worth and it does not invalidate what you want to achieve.
And so what did those first steps look like to get from styling to coaching? How did you make that transition?
It was very messy.
Yeah, as they always are.
I had a lot of things to get over. I couldn't imagine myself being a coach because one, I resisted the idea so much, like it kind of came up. What happened was in 2019, I had this moment where I was like, I just felt really unaligned. I was like, I had no control over my income and over my finances. I just really felt like I was a slave of any brand that wanted to book me. I didn't have any control of how to get clients. I didn't really know. Like I would it just felt like everything was happening by luck, and in an instant it could all be taken away. So in 2019 I had this moment where I was like, no, like I'm not doing this anymore, I'm going to figure this out. And that's actually where I started my podcast, which is a money and business podcast. It's called Bold, Brilliant and Broke.
I was going to say, what's it called for people who don't know? Yeah, and you said it as I was talking.
So yeah, it's called Bold, Brilliant and Broke. And basically it's money and business for creative freelancers like me. So your stylists, art directors, photographers. And I would talk on there. It was just a thing. I was a bit afraid. I put it out there and people really loved it. And people would say, oh my God, like you would make an amazing coach. And I'd be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Stylist. And people kept on saying that to me more and more. And then at the same time, I was also becoming really dissatisfied in my styling work. There was a period of time at the end of 2019 where I would have huge jobs booked. I was making more money than I kind of had before as a stylist. And I would go to work and have this huge pit of anxiety in my stomach. Like I would have to basically coach myself out the door. And it didn't make sense. I knew that there was something kind of missing for me. And so the transition mainly has been in my mind, like getting to terms with what's going on, tuning into my desires, what I want to create for my life. And really tuning into what are people asking me for? Like this, if like just putting back what I thought that I wanted to do when I was 13, like what am I good at? What literally gets me so excited? And it is talking to people about their big goals and their big dreams.
Yeah.
And that is how I basically transitioned, but in a practical sense, because I know you love the practical.
We go from the mental to the practical.
Like the outer world and the real world stuff.
Yeah.
So I was showing up on my podcast like every week. I was so religious with it. I was posting online. I would go on my stories. Like everyone would be in the know of what's going on with this thing. And so the podcast really grew. It became a place of inspiration. It became a place of ambition and reaching for things. And that's what I just started to get associated with. And then I started to take it seriously. So I invested in like mentorship and coaching, and I would share that story on Instagram. So my friends and the people that follow me who have known me because of fashion, I have also like invited them to come on this journey with me. And that's really helped because they're like, at first, even if they thought my podcast was a bit naff, now they're looking at me and they're like, like I've seen you say this a couple of times. Maybe I'm going to take a bit more notice of you. Yeah. And so they have become the people who have worked with me first, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I know. I don't think I can listen back to the first few episodes of my podcast.
Oh my God, no. I cannot.
This isolation has actually made the quality better, I think, because you're at least in controlled environments. I'm trying to see the positives.
Oh, that's so good.
And I know I want to talk a little bit about making money whilst being a creative person and how those two things aren't mutually exclusive, because I bang on about it a lot. And when you sent me your bio, which can I share was called Badass Bio, Kira didn't realise that she sent it with that title, and now I'm like, you're never allowed to change that, you have to send it to everyone. You spoke a lot about making money as a creative, so why is that important to you, and how do you work with your clients on that?
It's important to me because money is, whether we like that or not, it's a part of everything that happens in life. It's important to me because there are so many cultural narratives about money and about what it means if you want to earn lots of money, and what it means if you are striving to earn money, and what it means if you have money or if you don't have money. And there's also a secondary story about like being a creative and having money. Like I remember when I decided I wanted to go into fashion design, and my teachers were like, good luck, you're not going to earn more than 30k a year. Like, you know, like
eye roll. Like you literally just physically shrugged then, like totally. Whatever. Yeah.
Totally. And there was this sense that like when you go into creative industries, you're not meant to be doing it for the money. You're meant to be doing it just because you're passionate, just because you like it, because, you know, it's what you love. But what I really found is that those things are not mutually exclusive. It's not you do something that you like and you don't get paid for it. I want to encourage people to believe that when you do something you love and when you step into your power and when you have that confidence, you can also control the conversation and ask for the rate that you want and ask for that sell. The way that I work through with my clients is basically I tune in to their inner voice. So I'm like, when someone comes to work with me, I'm like, forget everything that you've been told. Like, just tune that out. Like, tell me what you want to create for your life. Is it a huge business? Do you want to have 10K months? Do you want to have your day rate as £500? Like, what is it that you want to create? And it's basically, it's your mission in life to go after that desire and to honor that desire. So together we build a strategy on, it's a strategy on confidence, because if you say, if your rate is £150 and then you change that to like 500 or 700 pounds, there's all these thoughts come up about like, am I worth it? What will they say when I ask that amount of money? And there's all these inner work that we have to do just for the foundations. And then it's all about reaching that person and, you know, getting your client on the phone, like getting into a conversation, and how you really like can hold your ground and control that conversation.
Yeah. And so what would you say is like the number one thing, or like a couple of common things that you see within clients when they come to you, or like, yeah, what are the things that really break your heart, I guess, in some ways when people come to you and what they say?
Well, people come to me because they are new to the industry, they're new to fashion, and they want to do something creative. Sometimes they've come from industries that kind of are around fashion, but they've never been the one to like create something. Yeah. Or they didn't go to university, but they've interned, or, you know, they haven't really been around fashion, but they've decided that now is the time. It's this thing of self-confidence and it's self-doubt, this thing of wanting the validation to be able to go and charge for this service. So I was working with someone the other day and she was like, yeah, like I have this background, like working in PR and liaising with people. I'm really good at management, but I really don't know how I can get someone to take me seriously in this creative thing. Even though she had booked work and was working as this creative producer, she still was holding on to the fact that she had this history in admin and in an office. Right. So really it's about tuning into the magic that is you. And I use the word magic because when you Google one of your idols, say like, I don't know, anyone, and you go on their Wikipedia page or their About Me page and you see that they've gone to Central St. Martin's and you see that they interned at Vogue, you can use that as an excuse or as a reason for why you won't be able to achieve what they've done. And there is no way that I'm going to let someone come across my path and think just because your background doesn't look like that person's, that you're not eligible to do this. You totally are. There's a reason why this mission has been put on your heart. It's our job to find the strategy and to give you the confidence to get there. Yeah.
Have you ever read the Big Magic book by Elizabeth Gilbert?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you're gonna love it. And she says that people don't have ideas. It is very woo-woo, so I know you'll like it.
I love it.
I love it already. People don't have ideas. There's just ideas floating around and they latch themselves onto people. And so if you don't listen to this idea that's speaking to you somewhere along the lines, it will come into fruition through somebody else, and it will go and talk to somebody else. So it's like, if it's landed on your shoulder, like listen to it and action it and do something about it, because if you don't, it needs to come into the world somehow, but it might not be through you. And when you see somebody else doing it, you're going to kick yourself. So
totally. Like, I agree with that. I actually follow her on Instagram. I've never read any of her books. I do love her though. But just to add on to that point, I have recently hired a manifestation coach. Her name is Catherine Zenkina. She's amazing. And one of the things that she has taught me was that our desires, like, So if there's something that you want to create for your life, whether it's you want a Louis Vuitton bag or whether you want a business that creates like 100K in a year, whatever you want, that desire has actually come from universe. It's come from spiritual intelligence. It's come from God, a higher, more intelligent being than us. So it is our like divine mission to go after that thing, regardless of what our background is, what our circumstances are. There's a reason why you need to go and do this work. Before I started the podcast, I had all these thoughts like, no one in fashion talks about money. Why would anyone listen to me? Like, I don't have a business degree. Like, what's going on here? But it actually turns out that there are loads of people talking about money, loads of people talking about business, but the people that I work with can't relate to the current people who are having those conversations because they haven't worked in those creative industries. They haven't had that experience that I have. It turns out that when it comes, I could be saying the same thing, but when it comes out of my mouth, people are listening and they're like, oh yeah, like, I've heard that 5 times before, but I'm actually going to do that thing now.
Yes.
So it's just like understanding that even though you can't see the way now, it is not your job to. It's your job to take the first step, to honor the desire, and just to keep going and to trust that those people who need your message will receive it.
Yeah. And so if somebody's new to like manifesting or the woo-woo world, should we call it? I don't know. Where would you say to start? If you're like a little bit curious, but you're kind of still in that eye roll phase, which I 100% was. Like the first time I read The Secret, all I could hear was my mum in the back of my head being like, put it down, Elizabeth, it's really silly, like, don't listen. And I was just like, oh, and just rolling my eyes because of what I'd been told was, I don't know, like serious or real. So yeah, where would you say for people to start who are a little bit curious?
That's such a good question. I'm so deep into it.
There's no going back.
I'm like, yeah, of course your crystal spoke to you. Of course they did send you a message.
What did it say?
But what I think I would say if you're just starting out and you're curious and you're not sure is 2 things. Your body is an amazing vehicle to guide you along in this journey. Just because we're talking about business and we're talking in the sense of fashion doesn't mean that your body becomes irrelevant. When you tune into like the sensations in your body, like literally like when you feel really joyous, when you feel confident, when you feel powerful, think about what that leads you to create. So I was doing some coaching on this yesterday. A client was saying how, they want to go into client negotiation meetings, but they don't feel like they have the confidence. And when you think about when you feel afraid, how you perform and the results that you create, versus when you go into that meeting and you've listened to Beyonce on your walk down and you're like, yeah, dancing in the street, and you show up and you're like, my name is so-and-so and I came to slay and everything.
Yeah.
When you show up with that confidence, you'll just start to take a notice of the kind of results that you're creating with that in life. When you are acting from a place of fear and self-doubt, what does that create for you? When you are acting from a place of joy and gratitude and confidence, what does that start to create for you? And a really important part of my journey has also been like listening to my body and healing my body. So I remember when I went to my first breathwork session, which is just 3 hours of like learning how to breathe into your tummy. It sounds mad, but please try it. When you feel the energy, the life force that is you, when you actually physically feel that moving through your body in a session like breathwork, in something like yoga, or in a gong meditation, like it really does expel lots of doubts.
Do you have an example of, I was just going to write it down actually, but I might as well ask you, of like a breath workshop that you could recommend, or somebody that
I totally do. So hold on, let me just
fist punching in the air.
So there's a guy at the moment that we're recording this in lockdown, Arthur Pullins, who I can give you his Instagram after this chat. He is doing breathwork sessions every day at 9 a.m. On his Instagram live. He's an amazing breathwork teacher, and he's free if you just want to dabble and try this. But also I would recommend that you go to this place called Remind Studio. They have a physical space in Victoria, but also they've moved all of their sessions online. And Remind Studio is like it's like a candy shop for like a 13-year-old, but woo-woo. Like, you go in, there's crystals everywhere, there's tarot decks on the side, they say come pull an oracle card, they give you tea. It's delicious. But I would just say go and check out Remind, because they have all sorts of different like meditation classes, they have breathwork practitioners, they even have this amazing thing called a shamanic healing. Just go and try it. And yeah, they've discounted their rates because now they're online, so I would definitely go there and recommend them all the way.
Yeah, I'm sold. I'm going.
Dude, amazing.
And earlier as well, when we were on your podcast, we were talking about like the power of journaling as a free way to give yourself some sort of therapy if that's not accessible to you. Where would you start with journaling? Because as creatives, I know something that comes up a lot is when people have a million ideas and they just can't get that clarity, or they don't know which idea to prioritize. Do you think journaling can help with that?
Totally. Journaling is like the basis of life for me.
Yeah.
So how it can help you, I think this also goes back to what I was saying about tuning in with the body. So I know that I need to spend some time alone and I need to journal when I feel like I'm forcing things, when I feel like lots of things are happening in my world or in my outer environment and it feels like it isn't working out or it isn't flowing as it should, and I'm hustling, I'm working up late at night and I'm just feeling maybe a bit stressed or a bit tense or a bit anxious about something. That's how I know, that's an indication to me that something has come up and I need to like spend some time working on that. So on a really practical level, you go to your notebook, you get some quiet, light a candle if you want to, and you just brain dump or thought dump everything that you're thinking right now. So I actually had this today. I was like, oh my God, I need to do this, I need to do that, like then that, and I need to send that email, and oh my God, I haven't got back to that person. And it was like this like buzzing of thoughts. And I actually had to come to my journal and just brain dump all my thoughts about it, because when you see it on paper, you'll actually see that there is probably some negative stories underneath all that buzzing and chatter in your mind. So for me, it was this feeling of, I'm not going to get everything done. I'm going to let people down. You know, what if I lose this sale? And when you can understand that that is the root cause, then you can actually do something. But if you're running around from email to person to project, and you're not checking in with the real root cause of why you're acting in that way, you will just continue acting in that way. Like my business mentor is teaching me a lot about hustling, because I am the kind of person who could sit at that laptop at 9 and still be there at 10 p.m. And she's teaching me a lot about like not hustling. But my need to work all the time comes from feeling like I'm not enough, like I haven't done enough to earn where I am, or like I have so much to prove. So journaling really just allows you to tap in and to understand those negative and disempowering thoughts that you're thinking about yourself. And it also gives you like the physical space. Like when you see it on paper, you then have the choice to say, is this something that I want to carry on with me? Like, is this something that I want to carry with me? And sometimes, no, you don't want to. Then you also have the choice to write down something empowering instead. So after I had that thought dump thinking, oh, I'm not enough and I need to work all the time to prove myself, I wrote things like, no, where you are is perfect. There's a lot that you need to do, but you have plenty of time to do it. If you lose the sale, then it wasn't meant to be for you. And what is meant for me is meant for me. So that's the option that you give yourself when you pay into yourself and take some time to journal.
Yeah, on that point where you said I'm not enough, like I think that's something that comes up with my clients for sure, and I'm sure the same for you, is that like, who am I to work in the fashion industry? Who am I to do that? Or like, why should anybody take notice of me? Why would anyone care that I'm starting a fashion brand? Like, these are probably some things that are going through people's minds. And I mean, my advice is just to be like, well, why shouldn't you? Like, there's somebody else doing it. There's probably somebody literally on your road that's trying to do it. And so where would you say for people to go or what to do when they're kind of having those thoughts? Because they're so nasty, like they're so mean, those things that you're saying.
They literally so are. And I heard someone say this on a podcast and I will literally never forget it. She was saying like self-doubt is the fastest way to live a life of mediocrity.
Oh,
so it is spicy.
Yeah,
like, so
I felt that.
Yeah. So if you want to live the life the way everybody else does, checking into work, checking out, like not doing something that fulfills you, you know, not asking for too much, not having dreams on your heart and not going after them, then listen to your self-doubt by all means. Like, let that be your guiding light. But if you know that, even if you don't know how right now, and if you know that there's something bigger out there for you, if you know that you want to go on holiday 4 times a year just because you think it would be fun, if you think that you want to own a big house just because you think it will be fun, then this is your time right here, right now to do that thing. Like, it is, as you said, like, who are you not to go and do this? And I do understand that self-doubt can come from not being able to see the how. Like, sometimes we're like, oh, I want to start a fashion brand, but the how just seems so big and overwhelming. And I do get that. I would encourage people to not like stress out about not having all the answers right now. Your job is to literally take the first step, meet the first person, and then you'll meet another one, and then you'll meet another one. You'll make your first sale, and then you'll learn from that, and you'll make your next one. And it's literally just about taking that first step and holding that vision that you have of your life in the distance, and just being sure that you will get there.
Got goosebumps. And so if somebody wanted to work with you, what does it look like? What do your packages look like? Do you work with people as a one-off or more like regularly? Describe them for us so we can understand.
So this has been something I've been working with for at the moment. So what I was doing was 1 hour sessions, and there would be like breakthrough sessions, like what is your sort of like mental challenge that you're overcoming, and we would literally like go through and go to the root cause. Sometimes we're talking about your childhood, sometimes we're talking about that thing that teacher said to you when you were 7 years old, and it's real good fun, and that's how I work with a lot of my clients. At the moment, I'm putting together a sort of 4-week course, and it's all about building that unshakable confidence in yourself and empowering you with the self-coaching tools so that you can level up once, level up twice, level up 3 times. I also have added things like how to approach a client, how to raise your rate, and all those kind of strategy things that freelancers, stylists, photographers always have questions on. And so that group coaching program is something that I'm working on at the moment, and it's something that I'm like so excited to deliver, because I feel like it's really just to blow my own horn here,
Go for it.
So transformational.
That's amazing. Yes, because hopefully it will be live when this podcast goes out, so
yes,
then people can sign up. And I do think, especially during this isolation time, I try not to bang on about it too much, because if you're listening in the future, it's kind of irrelevant. But actually, if you're spending a lot of time on your own, which freelancers do tend to do, it can get quite lonely. And the more time on your own, the more negativity could tend to creep in. So I think that will be a really valuable resource for people, just to stay within a community, because when you're a freelancer, you don't have like workmates that you see every day, or you're kind of like, it's a little bit more up in the air, isn't it, about who you're working with and how regular your interactions are with people.
And I totally get that. And it goes back to me being able to work at the laptop from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. It also meant that I would put my well-being second. So things like seeing my friends, like I would just be really bad at prioritizing that. So I feel like in my experience in my own coaching programs that I'm in and what I hope to create, it is all about reconnecting with people who are going through it with you. There's no reason why you have to go through this and it has to be a horrible struggle all alone in your bedroom, like trying to figure something out and not really knowing how to do it. Like, come together with people who want to achieve the same things as you, and you'll probably go there a lot more faster, and you'll have so much fun doing it as well.
Yay! I love it. I love it. And so how can people get in touch with you? How can they find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
So come and join me on Instagram. It's where I definitely have the most fun. You can find me at Kyra the Bold, Kira the Bold. You can find my podcast on Spotify and Apple or iTunes. It's called Bold, Brilliant and Broke. And you can also check out my program because I've got a little landing page at www.boldbrilliantandbroke.com.
Amazing. And I just have to apologise that I think I introduced you as Kira, not Kyra. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. I usually have this thing where I'm like, I tell people how to pronounce my name, but I haven't recorded an episode in so long, I just completely forgot.
Well, I had somebody on a couple of weeks ago called Sarah, and I've definitely been calling her Sarah for about 2 years. So at least we nipped it in the bud at the beginning, and now I know it's Kyra. Yeah, well, thank you for being such a wonderful guest, and good luck with your course.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And yeah, can't wait to hear from you guys.
If you enjoyed this episode with Kyra, then I would absolutely love for you to head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a quick review. I absolutely love it, reading all your comments on it and where you listen. Like, some people listen in the bath, some people listen on the beach. It's just fantastic. So yeah, tell me where you've been listening, what your thoughts are on the podcast, and it just really helps other fashion creatives find this community and resource to get inspired and motivated to make their fashion dreams come true. That sounds so cheesy, but that really is it, and it would just make my day. So yeah, head on to Apple Podcast, drop me a 5-star review, and I will see you next week.